give it another minute.
Great. But I'm assuming you know where to find us. Oh, okay. I mean, they do. I might go. Yeah. Not
Live.
They're quite professional at running around the building. Yeah. I saw the group growing. Yeah. Oh, I saw them. Okay. Did you see
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you for being here tonight, taking some time out of your day to share with me. My name is Aaron Dean, the head coach and CEO of the organization. I've seen a lot of you and met many of you, and hope to get to know all of you guys even better this coming season. What I want to talk about today is kind of a connection to what we talked about yesterday, but more of specifics of what the Age Group Champs 2 program is meant to be within the development of your athletes. So first we're going to talk a little bit about what the end result is again, just so we have an idea of and keep that in the back of our mind of what are we doing all this for? What's all this time and commitment and all these lessons and all this stuff that's going on? What's it for? Long-term development, where does Age Group 2 fit into that? USA Swimming athlete development model. We'll talk about the coach's role. We'll talk about the parent's role, and then a couple of things just to help bridge the gap between the communication of coaches and what we're trying to help you guys to help with kids, and also from you guys as parents to be able to communicate directly with the parents and be able to open up the conversations about things that are happening on a pool deck, things that kids come home and talk about, so that there's a clear understanding of the intent of what's happening. So to start over again a little bit from yesterday, what's the result of being part of competitive swimming? It's fast swimming, it's the results, it's all those things. But at the end of the day, we put our kids into athletes or athletics and sports and activities to help them be successful adults later on. We want them to be responsible, want them to be self-driven, want to be ethical, confident, physically fit, mentally tough, adaptable, and caring for other people. One end result is we want them to teach them not to need us. We don't want them living in our basement until they're 45 years old. We want them to be out of the house and doing some good things for other people, for themselves, with their own families, to be able to take care of others. So, first lesson, this is the first thing I put in there, have them be responsible for the backpack, training equipment, all that. Okay? Have them walk in with their stuff, with it ready. Have them be responsible and say, these are your things. Check, 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 check. Your goggles, your cap, your kickboard, your fins, whatever it is else they have. Do not leave the pool without them, and do not leave the house without them to go to the pool. Okay, make them be responsible for those things instead of them coming to practice and saying, "Well, my mom didn't put my goggles in my bag, or my mom put the wrong kickboard in here." Whatever it is, let them take responsibility for those things. It's a good lesson to help them take some of the ownership of those little responsibilities. Help them want to be self-motivated and want to succeed without needing us for validation, okay? At this age, we're talking about 11 to 14-year-olds, okay? So we're trying to help them to learn to be self-motivated and self-driven. 99% of the time in practice, maybe not that much, about 90%, their faces are in the water looking at a black line. And they're having to choose what to focus on, how hard to push, what speed to go, what to do with this end, what to do with this end, what to do with their head. And we want them to learn how to make the right decisions, how to be disciplined in their thoughts, how to be focused in their thoughts. And so by helping them to not need us to keep on saying, hey, do this with your fingers and do this and do that, it helps them to take responsibility to know how to do it, number one. But number two, it helps them to take that ownership that we want them to have at that high school age later on. Help them set goals and help them learn to be accountable of those goals through attendance, hard work. So at the beginning of the season, the coaches will be talking a lot about, all right, what's your goal? What are you here to work on? Okay, and the coaches sometimes will have to help them through that process and help them learn hey, here's the steps you're going to take, and here's some of the goals you should have. But eventually they need to have that connection, okay, of making sure that they are accountable to whatever they put on paper. Okay, a lot of kids, and even at the national level, we have a lot of kids that put something on paper and it goes into a desk, and it says they want to make a national team or they want to make junior nationals or whatever, and it kind of falls through the cracks because they didn't really put the steps that go on with it. Okay, so it's making sure that they stay accountable to it, but they know what those steps are, and that's what the coaches are there to help with as well. We're not going to talk about it today, but help them to become to not become a victim of things and allow things to control them. We talk a lot about this with our high school athletes and making sure that they understand, hey, there's going to be a lot of things that get thrown at you that you can't control, okay? Environment, temperature of pools, the other things that happen. And there's a lot of people that show up to meets and allow those things to control them. Bad attitude, cold water, a coach that's yelling at them, or a bad thing that happened at home. And all of a sudden they become a victim to it all instead of just rising above and saying, you know what, those things don't matter. I'm going to move forward and keep on pushing forward to be a victim. Help them maintain an open mindset versus a closed mindset. And we're not going to go into this real detail, but we've talked about this before, making sure the kids understand that we are here to help them, okay? And that feedback and help and information that we provide them in the education process is a continual process. And whether you fail or you succeed, there's always something to learn. And to keep that mind open so that when failure comes, they don't feel like their whole life is a failure. Okay? Just that one failure is not going to define you, and that's going to be an opportunity to grow from instead of give up from. And help them stay positive and learn from failure. Okay? And be able to push through those things. So how do we do this? We do this all through swimming, right? And there's a lot of things that from an outside just looks like we're doing a lot of laps and we're doing these things. But there's a lot that goes into helping the coaches to be able to instill these things within the program and instill them within the kids on a regular basis. It might be through conversations they have with them and lessons that we actually give them, or it might just be through, on a regular basis, showing up on time, on a regular basis, working hard, on a regular basis, having some good focus so that those things start to get stronger as good habits as they get older. So our long-term athlete development age group 2 is a combination of 11 to 14-year-old swimmers that are coming in this level with a lot of great skills, okay, a work ethic, and a good focus to want to improve their swimming, okay. Hopefully that's your swimmers, that they've got some good foundational skills, okay, good advanced skills for that matter, being able to push off the right way, being able to hold their stroke technique for more than 100 yards of different strokes. This level sets the foundation for the senior level, which is next, okay. So right now they're going to be going through some puberty stuff, then they're going to be going to adolescence, then they're going to be a high school athlete, and then they'll be an adult. Okay? This is that process or that step that kind of sets the foundation for good habits and good discipline and all those things we're trying to do. So skills need to be exceptional to move forward. Okay? The skill work that they do has got to be done right. Okay? And that's not just for their success now, but that's going to really help them in the success for the future. Aerobic fitness becomes even more important. This is where, where they are right there now in their career, they're a sponge for aerobic development, getting them stronger, getting them to be able to swim longer distances at a faster rate of speed, shorter distance at a time. So this is a time when that starts to become part of the training, is doing some aerobic development to help boost up their capacity to be able to swim faster later on. So we're looking at the athlete development model. We're talking about levels 3, 4, and 5, and then going through all that. So I'm not going to go into all these in real detail, okay, because I'll share these as the season goes on. But the athlete development model, there's 6 levels within the athlete development model. Starting off at the first level, which is learning basic skills, learning understanding of what it means to propel themselves in water, to understanding what swim meets are about and being able to compete. All the way up to the top level, which is being able to compete at a very high level, being able to reach certain time standards, being able to train at certain levels. All those become level 6, where you're at a national level of competence within the sport. A lot of these aspects overlap. So even though within our program we say that we're within that 3 to 5 or 3 to 4 level, there's going to be opportunities. When kids are ready, we're going to continue to push the envelope and help them to learn the more advanced aspects. Okay, but they've got to go through the steps of the process in order to get to that. And so there's going to be a lot of review at the beginning, and then eventually they'll start becoming more competent with it and becoming more advanced with it. Well, levels are meant to provide a 2 to 3 years of development. There may be some advancements when kids are ready. So each of our levels is about 2 years or 3 years long, okay, especially for the age group champ levels, and then pre-national and then national. If you're looking at that track, or national into, or pre-national into senior select. Year one is meant to be, all right, we're learning all the things, we're growing within this, we're building up some of the knowledge. Year two, you've got to master it. You're there. You know how to do these things, and it becomes easier to be able to do them at a very high level. That may be your last year there, and maybe you're leading also as an example, or as someone that's there to push the other kids in the group. And then your year three becomes a leadership role, okay? Being able to show other people how to do it and also direct them how to do it. So we've got four aspects that we're looking at with their athlete development. First is competence, and the basic way to look at this is the practices that we do. This is the training that we do. A lot of things that are in the water. So ability to change speeds while maintaining stroke efficiency. We say we're going to do 450s. They're going to be descending 1 to 4, holding your stroke technique and stroke count together. And that means we're going the same number of strokes, but we're increasing the speed. So maybe the tempo is a little bit faster, and being able to maintain that and do that. These are our end goals. This is what we want the kids to have by the time they graduate out of this group to go into the next group, which would be the pre-national. Increased effectiveness of underwater kicks, being able to push themselves off the wall and be able to dolphin kick out to the 15-meter mark, or at least out to the first red line that we have out there, which is about 8 meters off the wall. Continual aerobic development improvement through test sets. Okay, so this is where we first start to we'll do a little bit with age group 1, but age group 2 becomes more about testing and making sure that they're seeing that progress. So we'll come in, and this is where Coach Don comes in as our athlete development coordinator, is that he'll come in and do a test set and say, where are we at today? Okay, at the beginning of the season, we do a 500 foot time, for example. What's that time going to be? And then we come back 3 or 4 weeks later and test it again. And that's where we can keep the coaches accountable, but also the program accountable to making sure we're meeting some of those things. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? Are you sick that day? Are you getting enough? Did you go to sleep that day? You have a lot of stress outside of work? Or did you come to practice all the time? With all that stuff is going to be accumulated, hopefully, that we can get a good understanding of where the kids are progressing. Understanding of swim training terms, DPS, which is distance per stroke, descending, DESC, stroke rate, rest interval, all those things are starting to come into play where a coach can come with a piece of paper and say, here's our practice, and the swimmer can look at it and say, I know exactly what I need to do today. I know that the warm-up is going to get me ready. I know that this is going to be my preset. It's going to be a focus of skills. I know that here I want to work on my kick. I know that here I need to be pushing in different intervals and different speeds. And here we're going to regroup. So they can understand all those words and terms that we use throughout the course of the practice. Understanding race pace and how to follow a race plan. And some of the kids are ready for this, or some of the kids have done this already. But this is really understanding, why do I not go out as fast as I can the first 25 of a 500 freestyle? Okay, what does that mean, and what do I need to do instead, and what does it mean to be able to go at a sustained speed over that time that's a perfect speed, instead of going out too fast or going out too slow and not maximizing the speed throughout the course of the race. Knowledge of ways to keep their body healthy and injury-free, understanding how to properly fuel their bodies for performance. Next one is character. This is where we get into some of the things that happen because of swimming, and some of the things that happen because we keep continue to teach that. Okay. Display a high level of sportsmanship and championship behaviors, treats others, whether it's coaches, teammates, competitors, officials, with respect and consideration for their needs. Speaks to the coach before and after the races, knows what qualifying times, how to use them, leads through positive example, not influenced by negative behavior, understands and takes responsibility for attendance and performance and practice their habits, demonstrates the ability to balance school outside activities. Swimmers ready on the pool deck before the start of practice. So a lot of these things, your kids, you may look at this and say, I'll check, my kid checks off a lot of those things. That's great. Okay, then we're going to take them to the next level and keep on building up those skills so that they become habits, and then they also become a regular thing to be able to move to the next level. Confidence, understanding utilization of tools to encourage peak performance. So this is where we talk about the mental side of it. And at this age, they're still not overthinking. Okay, when you get to high school, and I'm coming from a perspective, I've got 2 very young kids, but I've been coaching high school athletes for the past 25 years, and so I've seen a lot of kids come through. And when they turn 15 years old, all of a sudden, everything is analysis. They start overthinking it in some ways. They think, oh, I got to do this, and I don't know what I got to do this, and all of a sudden they get paralyzed by the thought process, and they don't know how to get out of it. And so this is where the mental side of it, if they can get these skills down at an earlier age, it becomes much easier to adapt to those changes that happen in their mind as they become older. Awareness of uncontrollables, okay? Knowing that there's uncontrollables out there, being aware of them, and being able to say, I'm not going to allow them to control me. Awareness of positive comments help reduce stress. A positive environment is always better to be in than an environment that has negativeness to it or demanding into it. Okay? We teach them how to create that environment, how to talk about that environment, and how to make sure things that are coming out of their mouth aren't going to be a detriment to the rest of the people that are listening to them. We start talking about visualization, okay, and using that to be able to perform at your highest level. Okay, at the highest level, again, high school athletes, college athletes, they think a lot, and if they think a lot, then we got to take advantage of that. Having a skill of being able to visualize themselves doing something over and over and over again, as we know, starts to program their muscles through their mind to be able to do it. And we want to do that at this younger age to make sure that they have that as a skill going forward. Regularly sets and evaluates the short-term and long-term goals, understands the process, and needs to not focus on the result. Okay? And that's one other thing that tends to happen at this age. When we start talking about time standards and goals, kids start to focus on that result. They start to focus on, I want to get that JO time, or I want to get this time, or I want to do this, I want to win this race. And they start losing track of the focus that it takes and the things they got to do to be able to achieve that goal. Okay? And this is where, again, the overthinking, the kids, I've seen this a number of times, especially at that senior level or that high school senior year. Scholarship, I got to get a scholarship, and they dive in, they go, and I got to get this time, and they get to the end, and they're like, oh, I forgot to do the turn the right way, I forgot to pace it the right way, I forgot to do the things that I know I need to do right, and not think about the process. So they've thought about the results so much, but they forgot about the steps that it takes to get those. So not overthinking the results. Last one is connection. Summer takes an observable pride in the team. We want the kids to feel like they're part of an organization and feel like they're part of a group within that organization that takes pride in having each other there. We want them to be able to tell each other that they're friends. We want them to help support them. And that environment creates that positiveness and that continual growth of the kids as they get older. Understanding the difference between self-interest and team goals, chooses to be an athlete and follows conduct needed to be their best, understands the importance of attendance and the building connection with the team. So with that, just a little bit about the training. Okay, and what training is that, again, we're going from age group level where it's a lot of skill work and maybe foundational stuff. We start getting a little bit more specifics with what training becomes or what training is meant to do. Swimmers this area, overall, they're resilient and recover in a short time. These are kind of facts that we know. 11 to 14 years old, they're not adults yet. Their bodies are amicable. We can change them. We can make them stronger. We can push them a little bit differently than an adult. Okay, an adult's going to break down. The next day they come to work out, they're not going to be at that same level. They're going to break down quite a bit so their body can build itself back up. They're going to break down again, build itself back up. These kids are generally going to be pretty resilient to that. And that's why this is such an important age to build that aerobic foundation, those skills that are just right, the aerobic conditioning that can help them propel them later on. Swimmers at this level have great skills and be able to hold their skills for at least 100 yards without breaking. Good technique. So coming into the group, that's what we assume. Okay, we assume that they're able to hold their stroke pretty well. Now we want to take it to the next level to be able to hold that for 200s and 400s and whatnot. Swimmers at this level are ready for building capacity training through endurance progressions through the season. Generally, the training is focused on training towards success in the 400 IM and 1,000 free. That does not mean every swimmer is going to become a 400 IMer and a 1,000 freestyle. What that means is that we base our program and our training towards helping kids to be able to hold their stroke technique for a very long time, be able to do all the skills and be able to kind of have that foundational stuff. A lot of swimmers, and you guys are probably all about the same age as me, but you got some of the sprinters, Matt Biondi, Mark Jager. They were distance swimmers before they became a sprinter. And that's because their foundation was this aerobic capacity, the ability to do a 400 IM and 1,000 freestyle. And then when they become an adult body, you can start to do a lot more of that speed and power stuff that helps them propel them to be an elite level athlete. There's 4 different things that we focus on, and in this group we're mostly focusing on the cardiovascular system, a little bit of the muscle development, and certainly the neural development, the habits, the doing the techniques right. Got a little bit of this. This is one thing that kids at this age don't have a whole lot of, and that's lactic acid buildup or the high pH that happens in their bodies when they're working real hard. But in a basic sense, our neurons are going to develop over repetition. Okay, stress. It's pushing those arms to do the right thing all the time. And the more you do it right, the more those neural pathways become stronger, and they'll help you out with having a good foundation later on. But do those neural pathways the wrong way, it's even more difficult for a long time. It's even more difficult to change them back to the way we want to have them. So that's where stroke technique and the feedback from coaches becomes very important. Muscles developed by stress. Obviously, you work out a little bit. These guys are working pretty hard in there. Their muscles are going to develop by stress. Okay, we've got to push the kids to be able to help them get stronger. Cardiovascular systems developed by stress. The heart gets stronger. Body builds easier ways for the oxygen to exchange in the lungs, the muscles, as well as the carbohydrates and all the different things, the substrates of the anaerobic capacity are going to happen. But this is the foundation. And in order for this to be maximized and this to be maximized, we've got to have that freeway system of flowing aerobic movement. Okay, strong heart, great infrastructure of capillaries to get everything delivered. Okay, in order to make sure when these muscles get bigger and they go into puberty and go through puberty and they're adolescent, that when the muscles get bigger, they've got this powerhouse, this heart muscle and everything else to deliver what they got to do. And then this also helps this. If you don't have a great freeway, lactic acid is going to sit there for a long time. So this is the key to our long-range training at this level. Okay, is that this is what we're talking about, the long range. We've got to develop that aspect of it to help them out. And the bottom line is that attendance is key. Okay, now that we're in a group that does a little bit more training, okay, and a little bit more consistent kind of progression through the season, the training is going to get progressively tougher because the kids get stronger. All right, so we've got to track it, and we're trying to move it along here at a nice steady rate. And if you miss some of those, you're not on this track anymore. You've fallen off a little bit, and it's hard to catch back up. Okay, and by catching up, sometimes it means you got to overwork, and sometimes it means your body didn't adapt to those things that were being done to your body to be able to make it stronger. And so this is where, if you miss too much, you fall off there, but it can result in injury. Okay, because your body has now been pushed a little too hard. Okay, instead of being on this nice little gradual track, now you're jumping in midstream where everybody else has kind of built up the little muscles and all the different things, and it can cause illness, and it can also be kind of miserable. Now, not as much for this level, but certainly when you're in high school, it becomes even more important. So again, the habits that they set here will help them on later on for their high school years. Skills have become more advanced as the season progresses. Same thing here. Everybody's got their base level, and we're going to continue to push the kids and help teach the kids advanced things to do. Okay, if you miss too much, you're going to miss opportunities to learn, which can result in poor skills or not adapting to some of the advanced skills that we're doing later on. Okay. And this is the other thing too, is that this group, it's a relatively large group, especially here in Manassas Central, but all the groups are relatively large within this group. They're going to bond together with that shared experience. Okay, that shared experience is being at practice, sharing a little bit of the misery of working hard, putting your face in the water. Okay, it's like the military feeling of the brotherly love. Is that, man, we both went through these tough things, and it can build really strong relationships. Okay, and we want that because now kids are going to feel like they're part of something really special. Okay, get that badge of courage. Anybody's kids ever come home after doing their first 200 butterfly on practice or their first 400 on practice, and man, it's exhilarating. Okay. And again, this is to connect the kids to each other and have training partners, have people to be able to bond with and be able to come to practice and be excited about it because not only are you working towards something you want to do, but you're also helping your teammates do that as well. So by missing a lot of practice, you miss out on some of those opportunities to bond and those things that happen. So a couple of considerations in training that we know that happen in puberty. During the preteen years here, normally starts, you've got the body changes, you've got the mind changes. And again, that's the overthinking and sometimes overanalyzing things. Comparing is the other thing that tends to happen here is that teenagers will start to say, Well, should I wear this? No, they're going to judge me that way. Should I wear that? Same thing in swimming. You know, do I want to go out and be that person that works really hard and maybe fail? Or do I want to be the person that stays back and is timid and maybe not pushing myself? Okay, it's those things that we know we need to work through and help the kids to learn through those things. Training opportunity window to build skills, aerobic capacity. Growing pains can come up. Okay, if you have a teenage kid, they're working in a sport like this. A lot of times they're going to get little growing pains if they're growing really quickly. But the habits get solidified. And before they become an adolescent or before they become a teenager, this is where the habits get done. The work ethic, the commitment, the focus, things like that. So that's where the coaches in this level and everybody that's part of this make sure that we're doing the right thing with habits. The coach role, number one, is to be a positive part of the athlete's life and teaching them how to perform their best in swimming and all they take on. Provide a safe place to help athletes navigate swimming and the use of swimming to be their best in everything. To inspire, encourage, provide training opportunities for success, to provide open and honest communication to the swimmers and to you guys as adults or as parents, and to build a competitive advantage in swimming, which is basically what we're trying to do. Okay, and the bottom line is we're a swim team, we're a competitive swim team. We want to create a competitive advantage by teaching the kids, showing the kids, and training the kids at the highest level possible. Parents' role. This is just things to remind you that it's important to keep in mind that these are young people that we're trying to teach certain lessons. And those lessons can be solidified or they can fall out the window just by actions that we do as adults, whether it's coaches or parents. First is let the coach be the swimmer's coach. Okay, it avoids confusion. We want to be the source of information. And sometimes if you're trying to coach your swimmer or tell your swimmer one thing and we're telling them something else, now it becomes a conflict. And we want them to be able to trust an outside source, a source that has a lot of education, a lot of experience, and a lot of knowledge to be able to pass on to you. Okay, but by you second guessing that, now it creates a conflict. Do I trust my parents? Do I trust my swimmer? And again, back to my most experience has been with high school level athletes. And the ones that come in and are second guessing coaches and wondering if this is the right thing or that's the right thing, they generally have a hard time adapting with an open mind. They have a closed mind and they're very, very selective with who they're willing to learn from. There's a lot of people, a lot of things to learn from. Show your support for the coach. And this is the other thing, is that if you're constantly questioning, and this goes, it goes for teachers as well, or even your friends' parents, or things like that. If you question that in front of your child, how much is that child going to respect that person? And let's say that parent did something or that teacher did something, and yeah, it's probably inappropriate, but now all of a sudden the child has a disrespect for that person because they know something else. Okay, so if you're going to talk poorly about a coach, talk without the swimmer around there. Okay, that's the only thing I ask there is just to talk to myself as the CEO, the head coach, talk to another coach, talk to other parents, but try not to allow the kids to become part of that. Try to help them to be able to trust and entrust their swimming career with their coaches. Help kids to progressively take ownership of their actions and results. Again, at this age, we're starting to give things over to them. Hey, be responsible for your stuff. Be responsible for making sure you're going to bed on time. Be responsible for eating the right foods for a swim meet. Don't compare your child to others. There's such a big difference in rates of improvement and where swimmers are. I have seen, and this is kind of the feel-good stories, is I have seen so many kids come in and they weren't the fastest as an 8-year-old. They weren't the fastest as a 10-year-old, but they stuck to it. They kept pushing, and they become a little faster as an 11, 12-year-old. And all of a sudden, they hit a growth spurt. And as a 15 or 16-year-old, they're the fastest in the state, or they're one of the fastest athletes in the area. Okay? So it does happen, and it's because they've learned how to work for it. Right? Whereas sometimes the younger kids, when they get a lot of results really quickly, they haven't learned how to do that. They just are bigger, stronger, faster because they've developed a little quicker. So comparing to another child, it can cause the kids to question themselves and question their value if you do it too much. Encourage identity outside the pool. We're swimmers, right? We do these things, but at the same time, there's going to be failures. And if someone is only defining themselves as a swimmer and they fail, they're going to feel like their whole life is off track. And I've seen this in high school kids, especially when they put all their chips in here and they just didn't do things right or whatever happened, and all of a sudden they feel like they failed everything. And we don't want that. We want them to have a nice broad vision of the world, to be able to go out and experience other things, be involved with your church, be involved with your school. But at the same time, set the priorities straight and what you're going to be able to spend time with. And certainly if you want swimming to be an important part of that, it can be a big part of it without changing your whole life around just this sport. Enjoy being a swim parent, have fun, and if not, you might be a pressure parent. We'll talk about that in a second. Get involved. We'll talk about this in a second, but support your swimmers. Volunteer needs become official. There are a lot of needs, and there's always opportunities to grow with that. So it's just some questions to ask yourself. I'm not going to go into these, but if you've ever experienced one of these or put yourself in that position and said, oh my gosh, winning was so important to this summer league meet or whatever it is, and my child doesn't care about, just think about them in your own mind and whether you've done those things. And if you've answered yes to these, or you just want some ideas, there's a lot of resources out on the internet. One of the great ones that we'll send out some articles about periodically is True Sport. They've got a parent track that kind of goes through some of these things, and it's just ways that can help you to navigate the things that your kids are going to go through, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, and helping them to learn from everything that's going on, whether it's a success or a failure. Other resources, a lot of you guys have been swimming over a while. Some of you guys have kids in older groups, but parents of older swimmers. And a nice perspective of parents with older swimmers and coaches of older swimmers is that they can see the result of the things that happen down at this age, right? You can see that as a child, this kid was pressured so much. By the time they become 15 years old, they can't navigate things themselves because the parent has been doing everything for them. And we want them to be that one that comes in and takes advantage of the opportunities to learn and grow from others and continue to grow. So, I mean, there's lots of things that we've experienced and that we've seen that work, and there's some things that can be a detriment or really going to be a challenge to work through later on in life. Then USA Swimming has some good resources there as well. Just some final thoughts. Swimming is a means to an end. Okay, it's not the only thing. It's not the most important thing out there in the world. But it's a means to an end. It's a means to be able to give our kids an opportunity to compete in something that they're very passionate about. It's a means to be able to teach them different lessons that come up. It's a safe environment. It's an opportunity to do it in a controlled area that they can grow and prosper from later on. Swimming should not define your child, but if it's something you want to be successful at, you should prioritize it, what it takes to become the best or their best. Stay interested as a parent, but do give them space to grow. Give them space to be able to learn from their challenges, overcome those challenges, and be able to be there to connect the dots. When a coach says this thing, what does that mean? Sometimes the kid will take that and put it in their perspective, and it's like, the coach hates me. Well, no, the coach is actually, it cares about you, and that's why he told you that you need to push off the wall further, or you need to show up to practice on time, or you need to be at practice. It's not because they hate you, it's because they care about you and they want to help you out. Remind them that you're your biggest fan, that you are their biggest fan, not their worst critic. And there's a lot of critics out there online. You see it all every Saturday after Friday night football games, people talking about this kid or that kid or this coach or that coach. Just make sure your kids understand and know that you're their biggest fan, the coaches are your biggest fan. We want them to be successful in whatever group they're in or whatever their work ethic or work is. Remind them that you want them to be successful because you like to see them happy and accomplish great things. But it's not what defines your support for them. It's the pursuit of improvement, the quest for becoming the best that makes you most proud. So I know what it feels like. Your kid fails or does something bad and it breaks your heart and you feel bad about it. But it's not that you're mad at them for failing. It's not that you're upset that they did something wrong. It's that, man, it feels so good when they're successful, right? It feels so great to see a smile on their face when they come home and they've accomplished something and they're proud of what they've done. And that's what we want to make sure we remind them of is, man, I feel bad for you. I feel horrible. I'm not mad at you about this, but man, we're going to do better next time and you're going to grow from this, and such a great opportunity to be able to bond with them that way. And last thing there is become involved with their passion. Volunteer, officiate. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but man, we have the most amazing officiating crew on this team. You guys have kids in that 11 to 14-year-old age. You're going to be around for another 4 or 5 years. We would love to get you involved, and I've got one of our most committed officials here to talk about it, John Vallis. and he is recognized as one of, I think there was 16, 15 officials in Potomac Valley Swimming that worked at least 50 sessions throughout the course of the season. That's just with USA Swimming. I know John has worked more than that, probably close to 100 or maybe even more than that. Yeah. And that's just USA Swimming. He also works every Saturday at the PWSL meets. He's the coordinator for the PWSL meets for the times and database of that. He's also involved with high school swimming as an official. So he's got a lot of interest in swimming and helping his community. He helps every day, every weekend that we have a competition here. Helps to be able to support your kids, and he's got just a couple things. That's all right.
I appreciate it, Aaron. Thank you. Hey, everybody. A lot of you know me already. We're lucky to have a bunch of officials in this group already. And Aaron's right. Our officials are the envy of other teams in Potomac Valley. Even a lot of the bigger teams in Potomac Valley are like, how does OCCS get so many officials? And how are they so good? How are they such good officials? How do they run such great meets? Well, part of the answer is we have officials like me, Katie Simmons downstairs, Chris Oliver, our meet referee, Jorge Zamora. We're very committed to not just recruiting officials, but also mentoring you through the process. And we have to constantly be recruiting to make sure, as Aaron said, that we can run our own meets, that we can run President's Day or Fall Festival with 2 pools at the Freedom Center. And so that's why we're asking all of you to get involved also. Some good reasons for it. One, like I said, the training is all free. Anything you pay out of pocket will be reimbursed either by Potomac Valley or by OCCS after you've gone through training. So the only thing you really need to come out of pocket on is the high fashion white shirt and blue shorts that you're all already familiar with. Some good reasons to do it. We do have a lot of fun. And as Aaron points out here, not only do we have fun amongst ourselves, it has given me something to bond with my kids over because we are all out there on deck together. And it also communicates to your kids that you think swim is important. You know, you're not just the chauffeur. You feel like swim is important to them, and so it's important to you. Some things coming up to think about. I know a few of you have high schoolers or will soon. High school meets in Prince William County do not have enough officials. Myself, the Olivers, we are at swim meets that our kids aren't, high school meets that our kids aren't swimming in. We're there every Friday and Saturday because officials are needed. Y'all have high schoolers or kids will be in high school soon. If you get started now, you'll be an experienced starter by the time your kids are in high school and be able to be down there on the deck. And I do love USA Swimming. There's so much great energy on a high school deck. It is a lot of fun to work those meets. So those are some things to think about. OCCS does do some great incentives, and as much as I appreciate the everything Aaron talks about, I might not be the best example, right? Because people hear, oh my God, I have to come to 100 swim sessions. I have to. No, please don't. We appreciate as much as you can give. If that means you only work your own kids' sessions, that's great. We can still, that's enough time for you to be trained and make a huge contribution to the team. You might have kids in every age group. That doesn't mean you have to be there for every one of those age groups. So think about those things. There's QR codes posted around the building. You can talk to me, Katie Simmons, Chris Oliver. We'd all love to talk to you about it and get you started. There's plenty of time before the meet starts to get through the USA Swim and Potomac Valley processes. So we look forward to it. Hope we get to work with you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. All right, any questions for me or John, for that matter, but anything that I can help answer right now? I know the coaches they have some meetings that are going to happen here. I'm not sure if they're going to be up here or downstairs or where they're going to be, so I'll find that out for you. But any questions or any clarification on anything that's out there or that we talked about tonight? Okay, my job's done. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great swim season, guys.